Peace. I be the God, Mallah-Divine, Mallah from Malah's Insight. Today I got two brothers with me. They're going to build on their community work. They're definitely credible messengers. These two brothers are two brothers to watch out for, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves first, starting with the God-I-Be, then the God Prince.
Peace. My name is the God-I-Be. I actually live out here in Mecca. I've been working for an alternative to incarceration organization called Cases for the last couple of years, but I've seen that it's about time for us to build our own organization. So I've been working with my partner, Prince Rondu, that's also on the call, and we've been working on developing some organizations that are Black-led and community have community values and are working in the community. So the two organizations that we have created are Mentors Against Drugs and Guns Through Experience, which is the acronym is MADGE, and we basically recently just facilitated organizational event called the No Talk Walk. So I'm here to talk about that today and talk about the organization. And I also have a for-profit entity called I Am Phenomenal Unlimited, which is here to consult and facilitate and to help people to brand themselves as a brand or as an organization. Peace.
Doing peace, peace.
Peace, peace. True indeed. I'm in the name of Prince Rondu. I've been working for the past 4 years with the Mayor's Action Plan, with the Next Steps Brownsville initiative, which is a transformative mentoring intervention program that is designed to target youth and throughout the city, particularly 15 housing developments across the city that were identified as, the youth as being in low income, heavily involved in gun and violence gang culture. And so what I've been doing over these past years is just giving them some more positive things to get on their minds as far as, transforming their mindsets from negative behavior into positive behavior. And for some years, while doing this, I noticed that the work that I'm doing for these other organizations that I can be doing for myself and making such an impact and having, those accolades be put towards an organization that, that we have started, which I've started with the God-I-Be, which is, like he said, Mentors Against Drugs and Guns Through Experience. We've been developing this curriculum for, I say, the better part of 8-9 years. And so it was just time for us to launch our own nonprofit and, just see how we can go from there.
Let me ask this question. What brought you to this space, this social justice advocacy space? What brought you here?
Just based on my experience. So while incarcerated, I just noticed that the prison population was getting younger and younger. The faces that were coming through were, looked like they belong in college campuses instead of walking in prison yards. And so I made it my mission to try to help them transform those mindsets so they don't repeat the same mistakes that I've repeated in my life, which caused me a significant portion of my adult life behind bars. And so I just developed a passion to reach out to them and, just help them change their lives around.
What about you?
For me, it was more, can I add on to that?
Yes.
Yes, for me, it was more or less learning about the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths, and like really getting into the teaching. And before this time, I had never really had positive role models besides older people that was dealing with said cultures like Christianity, so forth and so on. But when I finally got involved with the 5%, it was something that was a positive culture that talked about upliftment of our race and our community. And this is something that I really took as part of my values on a day-to-day basis. So when I seen that, I said, damn, how could I actually help the community in a positive way, especially working with the youth, and how could I utilize my personal experience so that I can help uplift them?
True indeed. A while, maybe about a month and a half ago, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2 months, when all the protesting was going on at its height, Black Lives Matter, you two gentlemen came up with a different type of, it wasn't a march, I called it a silent walk. Like, what brought y'all to that point to say, yo, we wanna do this silent walk, and why silent?
Okay, so one day I was in the house, and I had bid out to the protests. I had been out to various protests in Manhattan, in the Bronx, and I think I went to one in Brooklyn. I have been to a few protests, and a lot of these protests are facilitated by the Black Lives Matter organization. I mean, it was a glorious moment if you take it at face value. It was all kinds of people, all types of cultures, all types of people out there. I think at one protest I was at on the Upper West Side, it was like 10,000 people out there. And I'm like, wow, this is like, this is really fulfilling to see all of these different people out here and to see them fighting for Black lives. But when you got deeper into what they were presenting, a lot of times it was sort of like a bait and switch atmosphere in which it changed from being about Black lives. It started to be about the LGBTQ community and so forth and so on. But I mean, we don't have anything against the LGBT community. However, when we're going out there to talk about Black lives, like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, we can't dilute the message to talk about all of these other said groups. And these protests are things that's been going on for years and years and years upon end, and we've been saying and talking about the same points, the same talking points for years and years on end. So at this point, I felt that we know what the issue is. Now we have to put in the work. We have to take the knowledge and turn it into wisdom and actually go out here and put in the work in these communities and in our community so that we can affect positive change and we can be change agents within these communities. So there was nothing to talk about.
Right. And so to add on to that, there's always these narratives that's going on about why things are happening and why things are not happening. And it just seems to be just a lot of talk. So the whole basic concept behind that walk was to say that, it's time for action. It's just a lot of talk that's going on. And when these type of things happen, it's just not when they happen that Black Lives Matter. That Black Lives Matter regardless to whom or what, whenever. So we shouldn't just wait for something, tragedy to happen in our communities for us to want to get up and stand up towards making a change. And so going out there with the picket signs and, just hollering out in protest, seems, which is good, for the cause, but there's a time where there has to be no more talking, it has to be action taken. So this was basically lined up as, a call for Black men in our communities to stand up, not a knock against no other race, no other ethnicity, no other cultural movement, but just for Black men to stand up, reclaim our communities, and become, integral parts of the community so that these youth that's coming up can look at us and say that, this is the type of paths that we want to follow.
Right. So during that march, that made two pivotal stops. And the first stop was at, I want to say, the Natural Museum of History, if that was,
the
okay.
Natural American Museum of History.
So what, and then the Trump Tower. But I want to know why those two stopped, because that was a long route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the American Museum of Natural History was really like sort of like a midpoint. So I know we had a bunch of people with us, and some of them were elderly. So I wanted to make a stop somewhere where we could, hydrate ourselves. But also, the American Museum of Natural History has a statue in front of it that basically depicts our lives here in America. I want to say, the president depicted in the statue is President Theodore Roosevelt, and in the statue, he's riding on a horse, and to the side of him, on one side, he has an African that's barely clothed, and the African is holding a rifle. And then on the other side they have a Native American chief with the chief headdress walking side by side with the president, but it's kind of like he's sheltering them, like he's the one that is the authority figure, and they're walking with him. So that statue has been protested multiple times in the past. People have been trying to get that statue taken down. So I thought that it was very symbolic for us to stop in front of this statue and to talk with the people that we were walking with about the ramifications of that statue and what it symbolizes in America as far as us being in a lesser role in American politics than the authority figures, which is the white male infrastructure, and also the Native Americans as well being in a lesser role. It's basically what it is white supremacy, and I wanted to bring light to that.
Right, sure indeed. And also, the reason for the stop at the at Trump International Hotel was basically that, you know, we have this leader that's in position that really does not have the minorities' best interests at heart. You know, it's just all about the elite. You know, everything is not designed to help quote unquote people of color. And so we felt that it was important to go out and to put this message out in front of Trump International Hotel to show that we stand in this solidarity, and that we're going to push towards making a change, and hopefully there could be some policies that can be changed in order to help those the type of population that we are trying to reach. So we know that Trump definitely doesn't have our best interests at heart, and so we just wanted to send that message right there and let them know that, you know, we here, like we trying to make the change even when he's not trying to, and he's supposed to be leading this nation.
So we in a season right now. Some people say it's arguably one of the most important voting seasons we probably, maybe in our lifetime. So far, we still living, so we can't really say. But up until this point in our lifetime, they said this is the most important vote this season. And me personally, this is the first time I'm voting. I just got my rifle restored, so I'm gonna be voting this time. Do you think that it's imperative that people, especially people that's formerly incarcerated, that have a different type of voice, vote in this up and coming election?
Yes, it's definitely imperative, because we know and understand that our votes has been absent for so long. And we know that there are so many powerful votes that can come from people that are incarcerated, because this is a large population of people that represent the city and this nation, period. And so being able to have those rights restored gives us more power behind who we can see put into these positions of power.
Right, and to add on to that, we have been, as a group, I'm talking about people of African descent in America, as a group have been part of the Democratic Party for a few decades. But when we came out of slavery, a lot of us were part of the Republican Party. A lot of people don't know that, but it's been a switchover where the Southern Dixiecrats became part of the Republican Party, and we subsequently became part of the Democratic Party. But all I'm bringing that up to say is this, that we have to have more interest in what the people we're voting for are doing in the community. Not just what they're saying they're doing in the community, but we have to see exactly what legislation they're passing, what they're standing for, and what they are representing us for in these legislative hearings. Because if not, then, as Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. That's something that should be, it should bring up the ears of all black people in the community, because what exactly have you done? Joe Biden himself was one of the authors of the '94 crime bill that initiated mass incarceration. A lot of people don't know that. They just so worried about getting Trump out of office that they leaving behind all of these other factors that are detrimental to our community. We also need to know what exactly is being done in the city council, what is being done in the state assembly, what is being done in the mayor role? What are the actual different initiatives that are being put in place by these legislators? Because if you're not voting locally, then you're not really affecting change on that level. That's the most important level to vote on, because sometimes it's small margins that flip these elections. And you need to know exactly what that legislator is doing so you know what you're voting for.
Indeed. I think that when the if I'm not mistaken, when most black people changed parties, I think it was around the New Deal with Truman, one of them cats.
Yeah, Truman, yeah.
That's correct.
So but me, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm an independent. Like I don't like, because I'm not into the party systems. But it put me at a disadvantage because I can't vote in the primaries. Only the general election. But like I had a discourse with a brother, and I was telling him, because he's like, yo, we've been voting for years and nothing changed and this and that. I said, yo, but we was enslaved longer than we had the right to vote. You know, then I said, then if you throw in all the shenanigans they did with from the Ku Klux Klan to the poll tax and all of that, like we just basically maybe a few decades was voting, being unbothered, and they still trying to do different things. So I told the brother, you got to meet people where they at. I said, sure.
Right.
Eventually, we should look into developing our own political parties, our own PACs, our own lobbying. But that's a sophisticated point of view to people that really just got the right to vote and don't really understand the whole process in itself. So I said, so instead of, I can say a lot of things, but I said, you know what? I want to meet people where they at. Like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes understanding others is better than being understood, and then you leave everybody with a good inspirational bill and feeling good about themselves, and don't make people feel stupid because of what they don't know, and because we're going to get sophisticated. As long as it's brothers like yourselves doing the thing and talking and advocating, it's going to happen. But I want to get to y'all organization because I love my t-shirt. I should have worn my t-shirt.
Yeah.
I love the name. It make me think of like Mag, like the like one of them Dungeons and Dragons, the Mag, like he was like the master. So like, yo, what, like the name of y'all organization that y'all trying to do? I know that from y'all working in those nonprofit situations, because I've worked in a few nonprofit situations in social justice myself. And it's crazy. I used to be a client in cases in 92. Yeah, so but the name that, like, why did y'all come up with that particular, say your name again and then say what's the origin of it? Like, how did y'all come to that name? Because it's powerful to me.
Right. Well, the name MADGE, Mentors Against Drugs and Guns Through Experience, was born inside of a prison cell in Greenhaven Correctional Facility. So I just came up with the idea, like I said, once I had saw those youth, the prison population getting much, much younger in the system and everything. So it just came to me one morning, and I was like, we need to mentor against these drugs and guns. And who are better to do it than those who are experienced? Like, we've been there. We've been, which caused our incarceration. A lot of us was, affiliated with drugs, drug lifestyle, gangs and guns and violence and stuff like that. So when I thought about it, I was like, the Mentors Against Drugs and Guns Through Experience. And then I looked at those first few letters and I put MADGE together. I came up with that idea. I pitched it to IB, and we've just been running ever since. So we've been just putting all different kind of curriculums together that would match the services that we intend to provide under that acronym, to go along with, teaching those to stray away from the drug lifestyles, gang lifestyles, gun lifestyles, and get to a point where you are able to think for yourself. You're able to make good, positive decisions and make a conscious decision to change your life for the better.
You gotta add on God.
Yes, so after he pitched it to me in Greenhaven, we actually went to Woodburn because we was in the Bar Prison Initiative college program. So we went to Woodburn and we started facilitating brainstorming meetings about what type of programs will we have in such an organization. And we came up with several programs while we was in Woodburn. And then we actually had a class where we invited people in the general population in Woodburn to come in so that we could so that we could watch that. What was the name of that show we was watching, God?
What? I don't remember.
The Wire.
The Wire.
We watched all seasons. We watched all seasons of The Wire, and then we facilitated discussions about the stuff that was going on inside The Wire that many of us had came from, and many of us were locked up for. So we was able to start facilitating discussions about that while inside, and then we moved on to we both went to Fishkill so that we could start our other degree, which was our bachelor's degree at what was the name of that program? Nyack College.
Nyack College.
Yeah, Nyack College. We went there to get degrees in organizational management. And while we were there, we was able to start a program called New Day, New Mind under Hispanics United for Progress. And we was able to facilitate that class for about, I think about four different modules.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 4 different modules of that class. So we've been doing this work, dog.
Let me ask y'all this because y'all brought up a valid point that I wasn't even thinking about until y'all just started talking. Cause education in prison, man. It's like at one point, I think up to 1994, like everybody could get college education in prison through the Pell Grant, and they, I think under Clinton, another asshole Democrat, that they cut the program. So now then you had like special interest groups took over, but that's only for a select few. But how do y'all see, like, from all the people that y'all knew that went to do these college programs and now are out, if y'all in contact with them, like what is the success rate like on the ground?
The success rate from what I've been seeing is amazing. I'm seeing a lot of brothers that we were incarcerated who are out here now just doing such great things in the communities. They're real positive forces out here, and a lot of them came up through these education systems called, the Bar Prison Initiative and the Nyack College School of, what is this, seminary? I forget exactly the exact title, but it was important to be able to gain the knowledge of, first of all, how to effectively run an organization. All of the things that are entailed with bringing people together, motivating people, getting people on the right page towards, advocating for certain causes. So inside of these programs, in these degree programs, they teach you a lot about how to lay that foundation and also how to build it and how to continue to grow into it. And so I think it's important. Education, I always, as a stickler for that with my group, I'm always on them about, educating yourself and being able to transform your life through education, using that education, which is that codified knowledge, or what they say codified knowledge, and you blend it with the tacit knowledge, which is that experience-based knowledge, and that'll make you much more effective and it'll make people gravitate towards you more readily than they would somebody who's just coming out with I got a master's degree, and your behavior in section 2.5 says you should handle this according to this, what this says. But no, if I'm coming with that knowledge and I'm blending it with my experience-based knowledge, I think it's much more effective.
So let me ask you this.
You add on to that.
Go ahead, G.
Yeah. So what a lot of people don't know is that the first college in prison program was created by a group called the Think Tank in Green Haven, right?
Eddie Ellis?
Eddie Ellis and McLeod and a few other, there was a bunch of brothers that became that think tank group. A lot of those brothers were people that were in the attic biker riot, and they were fighting. They was fighting to increase programming in prison. So they actually did a study which said that 85% of the prison population, which were black people and Spanish people, came from 5 different neighborhoods in New York City, right? And in that study, they was able to highlight different risk factors that people have, which were crime generative factors that come from the community. Now, with them working with the different colleges, they was able to instill that program in Green Haven, and that program was able to spread throughout the United States, where people was able to have college and prison. When they was taken away though by Clinton, when they stopped with with allowing people to get the Pell Grants for college, that basically knocked all of that away until these new programs like Bar Prison Initiative and NIAC College was able to get funding from outside sources that was not government funded, that was funded by human interest groups to bring the colleges back in prison. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's our job as this generation of leaders to be able to come into the community and create change, whether it be in prison or whether it be inside of the communities that these people are getting taken from. So we have to be the ones that push college education, because if you look at the statistics, the higher you get in education from an associate's degree to a bachelor's degree to a master's degree, the higher you get in education, the less likely it is that you go back to prison, right? I think it's like 90% or above that people that get college degrees do not have recidivism rates. So we have to hone into these factors and give people the empowerment to go back into education so that they can build a career for themselves, not just a job. Because if you're working at Staples and you can't pay your bills, then you're more likely to, if something happens, have to go and pitch a brick. So if you got something where you're able to have capital or money that is able to pay for your bills in society, and you're able to have a career that's able to pay for your bills, then it's less likely that you're gonna have to throw a brick.
Indeed. Let me share this with you before we move on, right? Eddie Ellis, rest in peace. He passed away the same year I came home. But I met, he founded the Center for New Leadership out in Brooklyn. And that's the only think tank ran by formerly incarcerated people. Dr. Divine Pryor was he took over once Eddie Ellis, and that study, I think it was actually 7 neighborhoods. And this is the impact of that study. The Eagle Academy. Are y'all familiar with the Eagle Academy?
No.
Heard of it, yes.
Right. It's an all boys school, right? But the Eagle Academy came about to put an Eagle Academy in every neighborhood that's in that study. The first one was in the Bronx. I know the third one is somewhere in Queens. I don't know if they actually got all 7 up and running, but I know that's the impact of a person like Eddie Ellis. He was a legend, and the term credible messenger come from them.
Yeah.
It comes from them. Another thing that people, and even the word we use, formerly incarcerated, it comes from them. So it's like his impact on this social justice stuff is beyond
still relevant.
And I think that somebody need to do a documentary on that brother. And you know what I mean? Because I know like when you look at the structure of what's going on, you don't really see us. You see like, other people, and then sometimes you got to break it down like, yo, the origin of this comes from us.
As we said, we had the No Talk Walk. That was basically like an introduction to MADGE and what we plan to do in the community. Also, throughout that time, though, we actually filed and filed with the Department of State and got our organization official in its official capacity. And right now, we're waiting for our 501c3 status to come back from the government. Once we get to that level, then we'll be able to reply RFPs in the community, which is community funding that nonprofit organizations can apply to in order to fulfill a need in the community. Like, we want to work with the youth, so we might apply to something like a Mayor's Action Plan grant or something like that, where we will be able to get people that's coming out of maybe the probation department or maybe schools that are at-risk youth, and we'll be able to work with them and bring them into our program so that we can mentor them onto the path that, you know, that would be more helpful for them.
True.
True indeed. I mean, basically, that's
I want to ask you this. So what is different from your program than, say, the Archers program? Are y'all familiar with the Archers program?
Okay, yes. Yeah, so I work directly with the Archers program, like through the Next Steps program. That's the whole part of that. That's based upon that Archers model. And for number one, when I see the Archers model, I see that they only focus on a specific catchment area. So say for program I do Next Steps Brownsville, it's only targeted at those individuals that live in Brownsville houses and the surrounding areas, but it's mostly focused specifically on Brownsville houses. What we tend to do at MADGE is to broaden that, where you don't have to be from a specific area. You can be from anywhere across the 5 boroughs and come and be a part of MADGE and to get the services that that we have available. Another thing is the stipend thing. When they do the stipends with Next Steps in the Archers program, it's usually only $15 every session. That was a big discussion that we had in those groups with the Mayor's Action Plan, talking about that. And it's not a great incentive for participants to really want to really stay connected, because of when they go into the program and they pay every 2 weeks and they're getting this little small stipend of $60, it's really not a great incentive to keep them motivated. Now, we don't want it to be all about the money for them, but we know if we're targeting low income, poverty stricken neighborhoods, we want to be able to design curriculums or programs where the stipends are substantially more than what they provide at Archers. And also, I think what makes it more unique is our direct experience-based knowledge that we have, coupled with the educational knowledge. You know, that's basically pretty much the same as what is going on in Archers right now. But when you have a crew of people that are educated and experienced, like I said before, I think that makes us much more highly effective than those who are just haven't been through what we've been, haven't walked the shoes that we've walked in, you know, and able to make this whole transition in people's lives more effective.
And another thing that I think that will make ours very unique would be, what I want to instill in the program is sort of like a beehive model. What I mean by that is, I want to work with people that are formerly incarcerated that are coming home in a reentry aspect and train them to be mentors. I want to train them to be mentors, and I want them to contract with us for a couple years, maybe 2 years, and we will be able to instill within them the skills to replicate our model in their neighborhood. That way, we not only do we expand, but we're able to help more people. I know that Archers and a lot of these programs are in these at-risk areas where it's a lot of violence, so forth and so on. You can never have enough mentors in the city. We're dealing with a city of 8 million people. You can never have just 1 or 2 programs. And a lot of people that's pitching for these programs are from organizations where the top doesn't look like us, to be honest with you.
Right.
So, you know, when we talk about structural racism, when we talk about why things never change, it's because a lot of the institutions that are supposedly serving us, they are actually filling the pockets of people that are not us.
Yep. And that is a social justice inequality in and of itself right there. You know, when you got all of these top figures at the top talking about what's best for us and our communities, when we got those, like I said, who's been there, who's putting in the work on the front line, but not able to have these hierarchical positions within these organizations to really affect change, you know. And that was one of the reasons why when I went for my degree, I went into, I got my master's in public affairs and administration. So that whole public affairs and administration is political. It deals with affecting change in policy. So when you are able to see certain social injustices and inequalities within these communities, you can be able to go and look at the policies, the mayoral policies, all the way up to the presidential policies, and be able to look at these things, see how unfair it is, and then you can be able to be in the position to attack them, you know, more effectively, you know, to bring about the change. Because when it comes down to it, you know, a lot of bureaucrats always say, oh, my hands are tied because the policy says this or the policy said that. You know, this is policies and procedures, that this is the way we have to do things. But if we have someone who's inside, experience-based, you know, and knowledge-based, they could be able to, you know, make these changes or push forward the agenda to affect policy change.
Indeed. So when should we be looking forward for y'all to be fully operational?
We're looking at early next year. We're looking at next year. We putting down, we actually have a meeting today. We're gonna sit down and we still hashing out things. We've getting a lot of buzz. We've got call from ACS, the Administration of Children's Services. They want to work with us. They want to link with us with different organizations that can help push our brand. And so right now it's just basically just building that foundation. So when we have that foundation strong and intact, we'll be able to, you know, bring forth that wisdom that's going to bring forth ultimately an understanding of change.
Indeed. So, because time is the essence, I definitely like y'all brothers. You know what I mean? We're going to stay in contact, but, you know, I want to hear some parting words before we leave from y'all gentlemen. It could be on anything.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say my favorite quote is Frederick Douglass: without struggle, there is no progress. But I always put a spin on that. I say, without struggle, there is no progress. But you can expect to progress if you don't expect to struggle. So whatever anyone is going through out there, personal, financial, whatever issues that you have in your life, embrace the struggle. Don't fight against it, embrace it. See how you can navigate through the different obstacles that you're facing, and you're sure to be able to turn out right. Because that's that love hella right. When you have love for something, a passion for something, for yourself or for a cause, you always know that there's gonna be some hell, there's gonna be some confusion, you know, as you iron everything out, but in the end, you're gonna come out right. And that's knowledge, wisdom, or being born and understanding.
That's peace.
Peace.
Okay, so I would like to say that we are in the 2000 era right now. We are in 2020. If you look at it over 100 years ago, it seems like we were kind of in sort of the same position as we are in now. We were living in communities that didn't serve us. We had health disparities. We had lack of job security. We had lack of disposable income. A lot of these different things in the community have not really changed. We are looking at the future. In order to look at the future, we have to look at the past. So what I look at is what the father did as far as his model of working with the youth, which was basically to get non-influential brothers within the community and to teach them some information where they would be able to get the rest of the people in the community. And I think that that is a very, very influential model when it comes to working with the youth today. You have to go out there and actively engage with the youth and find people that are influential within the community so that we can engage them. And once we do engage them, we have to give them the skills to be able to change their community and to be active in the community so that these next 100 years, God, do not look the same as they did for us when we came up. And with that, I say peace.
Peace, peace. I'd like to thank y'all brothers for sharing y'all wisdom with Mallah's insight, man. It was very inspirational and insightful. And, you know, we need more brothers like y'all and to lead the way, man, because, you know, who else going to do it besides brothers that know how to do it and why they should be doing it. And I think that that's missing a lot in the equation because the why be missing. And I'd like to thank y'all brothers from the bottom of my heart, man. I want y'all to enjoy the rest of y'all day and, you know, travel in harmony. Peace.
Same to you. Peace.
Thank you,
for having
God.
us on.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming out for the No Talk Walk as well.
Yeah, you can't tell everybody about that. You know,
we lining up 2021. Gonna be every year.
I'm there.
Right.
You already know I'm on deck, man. Y'all brothers, man. Y'all know what time it is.